meditate. What's up? Today is Friday, July 8th. I'm just driving back to Dorchester, aka Boston, from Abington, which is where my father lives, and I just visited them. I don't get to see him too often, so he is my dad after all, so I figure every now and then I go visit. And today he had my two little brothers with him, so I hung out with them. And yeah, now I'm going to work. Back on the grind, making that money. I've been having a lot of conflict in my mind between work and play, really. And by play, I mean like work that I enjoy doing, like writing and making music. Because I really want to make money with just music and writing, but I don't really have a foundation to be doing that. But I feel like if I just had the time, I could make the foundation. And that makes me want to quit work. But if I quit work and then I'm not able to make as much money as I think I might be able to with music, then I kind of gave up a nice opportunity to make money. Because making money at a restaurant is great. Like, it adds up to somewhere between $15 to $20 out an hour, depending on how many tips I get. Because I get $10 an hour plus tips, and but I just hate, I really don't enjoy working there. It's from my experience, it's basically just I'm exchanging time for money. It's that straightforward. I'm taking time that I would rather be doing almost anything else, and I'm just kind of putting it in a trash bin and then collecting money. And I guess there are benefits to it. I do get a lot of exercise on the job, and I get a lot of social interaction practice because I'm constantly interacting with people, and that's good because I think I need a lot of work in the social interaction realm, considering I spent most of my life at a computer either playing video games or writing music or writing books or reading books. So most of the activities that I tend to enjoy involve being alone. I suppose you can read with someone else, but it's not the most efficient way to read. The most efficient way to read is to read by yourself. And it's hard to write a book with somebody else, at least a fiction novel. It's just less efficient. And these are the things that I enjoy doing, so I don't get a lot of time to interact with people, which is fine. I'm a firm believer that there's no right way to live life. So, to an extent, I guess if the way you want to live your life is by murdering as many people as you possibly can, I don't know if that's the right way. I don't know if that is a right way to live life, but it's certainly, in general, there's certainly, I don't think, a right way to live. And sorry, I'm just trying to make sure this guy doesn't run into me. He's getting awfully close. So yeah, I think as long as you're not harming other people, I think you can live your life however you want. So I choose to be a somewhat of a recluse, but not really, because I do have friends and I do like to hang out with friends, and I totally see the value in spending time with other people. But I tend to the activities that I tend to enjoy most tend to be one-player games. So the other thing I wanted to talk about today is I've been thinking a lot about my past because I'm trying to figure my psychology out. There's a lot of psychologists and philosophers will say that you can't really be happy and you can't really know what you want and you can't really have a purpose until you've mastered your psychology. And mastering your psychology is not easy, and some people never do it. Some people it takes them until they're 50. But I'm trying to live efficiently, so I'm trying to master it as soon as possible. So that's where a lot of my focus goes, because most of the battles that we're fighting are in our heads. They're in our minds, in our bodies. Most of the time we feel like we're arguing with other people, or we have conflicts with other people, but really we have conflict with ourselves. When you have a conflict with yourself, it's way easier to find conflict in other people, because you're always dissatisfied. There's always something wrong with the present moment. So, every now and then I catch myself working, acting out of the dissatisfaction with myself. As Eckhart Tolle would say, he would call that a pain body. That I'm living through my pain body, and luckily that doesn't happen often. I've seen a lot of worse cases that people are constantly lashing out, and anyone who gets like really angry all the time, or just never seems happy, always seems dissatisfied, is always trying to pick a fight. Eckhart Tolle would say that person has a strong pain body. Luckily, I think I've made a lot of progress, and I think I also kind of had a head start because I'm kind of naturally a really calm person. I don't get like super emotional really easily. I don't get, and that goes both ways. I don't get really sad, but it's hard for me to get like really happy. I guess happy is the wrong word, but like really excited. So I don't often get like depressed, but I also often don't get like super joyful, super cheery, super cheerful. So it goes both ways. But I'm kind of always in a constant state of just like neutrality. I'm always just chilling, That's just kind of that's the way I am, really. And I've been realizing that, everyone is neurotic. If you don't know what neurotic is, I would do some research on it, but I'll give you a quick definition. It's basically when there's like a barrier between you and reality, because in your mind you see a difference between who you are and who you should be, rather than just accepting who you are now and working, to be who you want to be in the future. A lot of people they have a lot of dissatisfaction and unrest within themselves because they feel like they should be someone they're not. And they don't really realize that in order to be the person they think they should be, they have to, rather than like complaining about it or just being like pissed off all the time, you got to make a conscious effort to move yourself from that place, from A to B. And you have to be patient. Patience is key to defeating neurosis, because just to live a happy life, you have to be patient, because life is long, and if you're not patient, you're just going to get frustrated with it. And at some point, it's just going to build up to the point where you never feel at peace with yourself and with the moment and with life. And I've kind of been realizing that, like, I want to learn how to be happy. I want to learn how to be at peace with myself and with life all the time. I don't want to constantly be battling myself. So that's like priority number one for me, is learning how to deal with my mind and learning how to master my psychology in a way that works for me. It's not going to be the same for everyone. There isn't like a 10-step guide to mastering your psychology. You have to kind of test different stuff out, and that takes patience, because the first thing you try isn't always going to be the thing that works. So, it's a hard process, and I'm experiencing a lot of things right now, and I'm starting to like dig up stuff in my past, and there's a lot of stuff that I kind of buried deep within myself, within my psychology, that are the kind of like in the crevices and the cracks of my mind, things that I kind of tried to hide from other people, but also things I tried to hide from myself. There are things in my past that I have tried to force myself to forget, which is really bad in terms of being at peace, because if you're trying to bury things, that means you're ashamed. And if you're ashamed, that's one of the most powerful negative emotions, is shame. That's one of the themes of the book I'm writing right now, is because I've experienced a lot of shame in my life, of myself, and it took me 18 years to realize that, you know, I'm doing it to myself. It's not anything that I'm doing. It's not anything that anyone else is doing. I'm doing it to myself in my mind, and it's a vicious cycle. And you know, I need to learn how to master that and how to control it, so that I'm not a victim to my mind. Because the mind is a tool that we have, but it's not always our friend. You know, it can totally mess with us, and it can be our worst enemy at times. You know, when people say like, I'm my own worst enemy, that's a great quote, and what they're really saying is, my mind is being an enemy right now. When they feel that way, that's what's happening. Their mind is just like fucking with them and telling them that like they're worthless and they're not good enough, you know, and they've done things that they'll never be forgiven for. All these things, they build up inside you, and they can cause some serious unhappiness. And one of the things that I've realized recently that I kind of suppressed is in middle school and high school, and a little bit in elementary school. Elementary school wasn't as bad as middle school and high school, but I used to be really sensitive to what people said about me, and what people said to me, and what my reputation was, and how people responded to what I said and did, and the choices I made. And what that did, basically, is if anyone ever, you know, kids can be really mean. Kids, especially the younger they are, but especially in high school when people's like hormones are going crazy, you know, there's a lot of immaturity that goes on, and people say some really mean stuff, and it's like a constant battle. Everyone's constantly battling each other for like to be more popular, or to get more girls, because I went to an all boys high school, so you know, getting as many girls or being popular with girls was a huge thing. So everyone's constantly battling with each other, and you know, I definitely was overly sensitive in school, and what that did to me was it made it hard for me to make friendships, and it also made it so I was constantly feeling humiliated by my peers. I was feeling as though they were better than me. You know, like I wasn't good enough to be in their group of friends or whatever. You know, it's classic high school stuff, classic high school drama. And believe it or not, even in an all boys high school, the same shit happens. I don't want to say there's an equal amount of drama, because, you know, I've heard some pretty crazy stories at all girls schools where the drama just sounds insane, but it is still pretty dramatic, because everyone's hormones are just going nuts, and no one like knows what to do with themselves because everyone's just so immature. It's, you know, it is what it is. And now I'm grown up, and I'm reflecting on my past, and I'm realizing that I totally went about high school the wrong way. I don't regret anything, because regretting things in your past is pointless to the extent that you've learned the lesson, and now you're still regretting it. Like, if you're reflecting on your past and you feel a sensation of regret, what you need to do is find out where that regret is coming from. Be honest with yourself about why you regret that thing. You know, determine what the lesson is in that feeling that you're experiencing, and then move on. You know, there's nothing you can do. There's absolutely nothing you can do to change the past. Time travel, as far as we know, is not invented yet. And if it is invented in the future, then I guess that means that it's invented all the time. See, that's weird. Like, time travel, if it's ever invented, then it's always invented. anyways, that's just a confusing thought. And I've been reading Stephen Hawking's book, A Brief History of Time, where he talks about black holes and time travel and stuff like that, the speed of light, stuff like that. And so that type of stuff has been on my mind a lot. Anyways, yeah, so moral of this video, I suppose, is forget about shame, man. Forget about regret. You know, learn what you can from those emotions and then move on. The emotions you should really try to dwell on and chase are excitement and inspiration and happiness and peace of mind and stuff like that, like stuff that actually generates happiness and productivity and love. You know, that's another thing. If you haven't accepted yourself, if you're not at peace with yourself, it's going to be really hard for you to truly love another person. And you know, my lover and I, we just broke up, and it was a painful experience to an extent, but also very productive, and I feel like I learned a lot from the experience, because I'm starting to realize now that there's also been things that I've been burying in that relationship. There's, you know, I haven't truly fully accepted myself yet, and that came out in the relationship. I think that relationships reveal that better than a lot of other things. Man, this is rough traffic. Let me get out of here. Actually, maybe that was the wrong move, because this is traffic too. Damn, I gotta get to work. Anyways, yeah, so I haven't truly fully accepted myself yet, and I think that's one of the reasons that it didn't really work out, because every time I would feel, you know, dissatisfied with myself, it would reflect in our relationship. And we didn't get in many fights. We were together for a year and a half, and we had maybe like 4 or 5 fights, and they weren't really fights. They were just, there was like a certain disagreement or a certain distance separation between us, and we just couldn't figure it out. We couldn't beat it in the moment, and but we would always resolve it. We would always talk about it after. It was great. We managed, and there's no like personal like offense that is lasting from the relationship. It's we're at peace now. But anyways, I'm gonna end this video. I'm just blabbering now, so see you tomorrow.